This will be goofy, Corvus, because even in speaker view, I think it'll be fine, but I know what you mean, that I'm going to look smaller than everybody else.
It'll be
I
fine.
mean, that's nothing new.
When you throw a softball, you better expect that to get hit. That's all I'm saying. Someone's going to swing. It's usually Squeezie.
All right.
You recording already?
Yeah, I got it on record, and I was just thinking, we come in, you're like, hello, everybody. Welcome back down to the mud. You know?
Happy May, everybody. Welcome back to Out of the Mud. It's another month. There's hopefully less mud where you live, or if you love the mud like we do, obviously, we're Mosaic people, then welcome to your muddier May. I am Everyman, joined by my co-host as usually, Corvus. Hello, Corvus.
Well, hello there, everyman, and hello to the community. Welcome back to Out of the Mud as we descend further into our own madness and bring you updates about the burn and also, interview a few people involved with the burn. Now, this month, before we give you the updates, we'd like to give some introductions as to our gate leads here. So we're joined today by Squeezie and Zoe. Let's get some introductions out of the way. Who wants to go first?
Let's start with our more veteran gate lead, Squeezie. I'm sorry, no pressure, Squeeze.
No, I feel the pressure. It's great. It's wonderful. Running gate is a hell of a lot easier than actually doing this.
How
So
long have you been gate lead? You've been gate lead for our last couple digital burns. You've been a gate lead for our physical burn, haven't you?
yeah. Yes, I was the gate lead in training in 2019. That was actually the year that I was onboarded. So I had one in physical burn to yell at people, and then I had to do it all digitally.
You're such a good virtual gatekeeper.
Yeah, I kind of know what that's like. Unfortunately, I have not yet been able to do the promo role in person, just the digital thing. So, yeah,
promo is the best role to have for in-person burns.
Yeah.
So I've heard.
That's when your job ends. You don't have anything to do during the burn when you're promo, unless you have to cancel your event and have a virtual burn instead. Then you're like really busy throughout the whole burn. Corvus knows nothing about that.
Yeah, so Squeezie, how did you get into doing the gate for Mosaic?
I was asked to take over for the previous gate leads. I don't know. I really don't understand how it happened.
I have a feeling that Showman might have been involved in this somehow.
Actually, no, Showman had absolutely nothing to do with it. And actually, I think Showman was slightly disappointed that I went gate instead of taco. So
okay.
Gate wins.
Gate always wins. So gate has always been my baby. My co-lead, Zoe, actually is the one who took me to my very first burn. And gate was the very first place that I ever volunteered at, and promptly very quickly fell in love and never left, and probably never will. It's like I get to be my usual hard ass, but still be loving at the same time. And people actually like it. It's great.
I had no idea that Zoe introduced you to your very first burn. Which burn was that?
Lakes of Fire, actually.
Okay.
I believe it was 2017.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yep.
That was chef's kiss. That was a good burn.
It was a great burn. Yeah.
Speaking of Zoe, Zoe is now your our newest gate co-lead, who's just brought on this year. You just heard a little bit from her right now, but welcome to the team, Zoe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm so glad that you're a part of the team right now, and this is the first the community is being introduced to you. No pressure at all.
Certainly not.
But given that, what made you interested in being a gate co-lead? What got you into the whole gate thing in the first place?
I think much like Squeezie, I fell into it kind of by chance. I was wandering around. I mostly kind of, I bounce around the burns in the Midwest. And I think Squeezie and I were both like, I don't know. I was wandering around looking for somewhere. I was like, I need to volunteer because like it's a whole, I don't know. It's not actually a very interesting story, but I don't know. Gate was like, hey, someone like flaked on their shift. Do you want to come? And, you know, and I was like, oh, bureaucracy. Yes, please. So,
that is actually
that
very
seems to be
interesting.
where my talents lie
We don't hear that too often around here.
Well, I work in like middle management. So,
Okay.
and make schedules and nitpick and train people in technology. So it's fine. It was probably the right place for me.
It sounds like a perfect fit for you. That's just not something that you hear too often in the burner community. You don't often bureaucracy, yes, but I kind of get it. You know, if your day job falls into your talents and you're really good at it and you're a good fit with it, it makes sense. And Gate is very administrative. You know, and Gate is really serious. As we often say to the community, Gate is kind of we need to see your pass, need to see your ticket, need to see your ID to prove that you are who you say you are. You go past Gate and greeters are all, that's your welcome home. Welcome to the burn. You made it. Congratulations. But there has to be some administrative layer to make sure that you actually got a ticket to come in.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're not just some random person.
I'll give people hugs. Like I enjoy hugs, but you'll get a hug from me and then I'll very nicely ask to see your papers. Like, you know, well, that sounds really terrible, but I'll nicely ask, you know, like, yeah, just did you bring the requisite documents to assure that you are like the person you say you are and our butts are covered. So it ensures a smooth burn. It's the dirty work, but it needs done.
What is it about your job that translates really well, your day job that translates really well to Gate, since you brought it up? If you don't mind.
That's
you don't
fine.
mind sharing that with the community?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I work in an academic library.
Okay.
And before that I was a teacher. So just I don't know, it was always keeping organized with what I could come up with. And Gate is in many ways better because like I work with undergrads. I have like 35 undergrads. Well, some of them I do also have some grad students, but I work with like 35 students who cover service, like 3 different service desks at the library. It's a big library. Okay. And I have to make the schedules, and they're like, I love them very dearly. They're like always yanking my dick with like reasons why they can't work a shift. So that's a lot of my job is like putting out fires and, you know, like, so making schedules and putting out fires is what I do.
So you're saying that we can also count on you to volunteer for, you know, conclave and everything when it comes to effigy night.
I did that. I was on a
Fire watch, you know, be one of the Ember Stompers.
Yeah, I was one of the Ember Stompers in 2018 at Mosaic, and that was all right. So
we call them fireflies, right?
Something like
that's
that.
Right.
Yep.
You sound perfect for it. And you sound perfect for Gate. I can tell why Squeezie was excited about you joining the team.
I'm like I said, I'm super excited to be here. It's a delight.
Good. We're glad to have you
coming on the podcast. Yeah, absolutely. And I know Corvus, we just did a month ago, we just did a ticket announcement, and this is one of the reasons why Gate is here, because we're also releasing our vaccination policy along with the ticketing policy. What are those dates again?
Yeah, well, actually, we just had our tier 1 tickets go on sale May 16th. So those start out at $110, and we're doing that for the first 2/3 of the tickets, the first 300 tickets that we're selling, and it'll continue at that tier 1 until July 1st when tier 2 kicks in, and that's going to be $125. But if we sell all 300 tickets of tier 1, then we'll go ahead and jump up to that tier 2 before July 1st.
I realize that's a bit of sticker shock to some people. There's a big price hop compared, for the tickets. There's a big price hop compared to what we were asking for in previous years. We talked about it in our last podcast. I know not all of you watched the last podcast. We encourage you to do so because we go into a lot more detail. But plain and simple, the cost of insurance is going way up. And you can talk to anybody who's running any of the regional Burning Man events. They either don't know what the cost of insurance is going to be, or they already got their quotes. And in some cases, they're 10 times higher than they used to be as far as the quotes for insurance. I've heard higher than 10 times. So we're budgeting accordingly. And that means that the ticket price has to go up. Other things are going up too. The cost of portos is going up. And we want to have the same number of portos because we're going to have the same population count. So we're not going to be cutting portos. So all of our expenses are going up this year. Insurance is one of the biggest. That's the most painful one. We really hate doing this, but we have to increase the ticket price. We have also, just to try to balance things out a little bit and make it less painful, we did increase the amount of tickets that are available to those who don't have the same income as everybody else.
Yeah, our needs-based tickets.
We used to call these low-income tickets, and in some cases that applies to you, but these are needs-based tickets. And the needs-based tickets used to be 9, I believe. We used to offer 9 of those.
Yeah,
now
it was 9. Now, 15. And those needs-based tickets are going to be $45. They went on sale as well on the 16th. And if we run out of those, we've also got the gift ticket program that's going to be coming out as well. We talked about that in our last podcast too, when we had Cheese Fairy on here.
Please watch that podcast. The gift ticket program is an amazing idea that we're implementing this year. And it's very detailed. We're not going to repeat it all here, but go back and watch that podcast. We can link to that in this video description. It's really important to be aware of that because we understand that the ticket price going up is going to affect a lot of people in our community. We still want to see your faces again. We want this to be affordable, but we need to be able to pay our bills. It's just the reality.
And another reason why some of these prices have increased for the ticketing as well is because we wanted to make sure that we had the funds to provide the art grant this year. I know we didn't have the art grant last year, just the effigy, and it carried over into this year. The effigies are moving this year, but we want to make sure we have art grants this year. So those got started with the applications on May the 13th. If you want to head over to mosaicexperiment.com and fill out an application for art submissions.
You raise another really good point there. We haven't had an in-person event in 2 years. That means we haven't been bringing in ticket money for 2 years. So we budget very, very well. We can thank Dirt Goddess for that. So we've had enough money to actually cover existing for a couple of years. We're still able to pay for our storage facilities. We're still able to pay for some basic infrastructure, but that money is running dry. And we would have nothing available for art grants if it wasn't for our ability to raise our ticket prices. It's not just the cost of insurance. That's a real big one, but it's not just that exclusively. We looked at what all of the departments were asking for financially, what they all need to survive, what they would all like to have for this event to proceed as normal. And to meet the bare minimum of that, they gave us their must-have lists and their would-like-to-have lists. We can't make the would-like-to-have lists. We're making the must-have lists. And that the ticket price is going up that high just to meet that. So this is not something we're arbitrarily doing. This is something that we absolutely have to do. And I'm seeing ticket prices for all these regional burns going up. And that's why that's happening.
Back to our gate leads. This episode is about civic responsibility. So people have been asking about our vaccination policy this year. Now, we released something out on our blog about it. We've got a detailed, statement about our vaccination policy, but we wanted to make sure that you saw the faces of GATE and they kind of can go into it a little more if you'd like to get more information about this.
So this year we are requiring vaccinations, no different than what we were going to do last year. But the difference is that we are not requiring a pre-upload of your proof of vaccination. So that means that at GATE, we will be checking for proof. As of right now, we are requiring fully vaccinated, which means that you just have to have your first 2 shots for Moderna and Pfizer and just your 1 shot for Johnson & Johnson. to be considered up to date. If you are eligible for a booster shot, you should get it. We don't know if we're going to change to that yet or not. So, if in doubt, go ahead and get your booster. Otherwise, right now, we just need you to be fully vaxxed. As to the documentation at gate, you are required to show it one way or the other. We don't care if it's a screenshot from some online health care provider like MyChart. As long as it says your name and it shows that you have been vaccinated by certain dates, which we'll go over, or if you bring the card itself, or if you just take a picture of the card. If you do take the picture of the card, we have to see all four corners of the card and it cannot be blurry.
Yeah, we have to be able to read it clearly. The information we are looking for, we need to see your name, we need to see the date of each shot, and excuse me, that's the bare minimum information we need. And all of that has to be visible. We need to see what you got. We need to see when you got it. So we will accept, as Squeezie said, digital copies. So if you take a photo of your vaccine card, that's fine. We need to see all four corners. So not just like a zoomed in shot of just the information. I promise it's possible. You can hold it, you can get all four corners in. Even on my crappy, like super outdated Droid phone, I was able to do it. And you can clearly read my name and date of birth and, my info on it. So it can't be blurry. We got to see the whole card. And, we'll be flexible to a point with how you present that, but you absolutely have to present that.
Just so everybody knows, that's a lot of extra responsibility on Gate that Gate didn't used to have. So please be respectful to them because they're being asked to do things. And again, they're volunteering. They're volunteering to go through some extra effort to help make sure that this event happens. We haven't had a Mosaic in a couple of years. People are really missing this burn. We want to have this burn happen again. I understand that the pandemic appears to be waning. At this point in the recording that we're making this, the media is saying that it looks like it's going to start rising again in the fall. Mosaic takes place in the fall. We're just being cautious right now. Things may change. No one was expecting the pandemic to happen in the first place. So this is what our policy is right now. Things are subject to change if things change. We can't help it, but this is the way things are looking right now. And we just want to give you an idea of how things are probably going to go.
Now, as far as these dates go as to when you need to be vaccinated, if you're going to be getting the Pfizer shot, if you haven't already been vaccinated, your first dose needs to be done by August 17th, with your second dose being September 14th. And this gives you that full 2 weeks before we, actually have the burn starting on September 29th for those of you without the early entry. For Moderna, your first dose needs to be August 10th, with the second also being September 14th. And if you go for the Johnson & Johnson, you just need to get that single dose by September 14th. However, looking at some of the data that's been presented through different medical studies, it is more effective to get the mRNA vaccines, and you're much better protected than with just the Johnson & Johnson single dose.
Now we're talking about fully vaccinated, right? Like this is the CDC definition of fully vaccinated, which
Correct.
is subject to change between now and when the event happens in the fall.
That's right. We're going by CDC guidelines, which could change. But we are looking to science for guidance here. We, as of now, fully vaccinated is considered the 2 shots. Obviously, we think boosters are a super duper good idea. Please get boosted. That will, at the very least, there won't be uncertainty about will you be able to get into the burn if you're boosted? You don't even have to think about it, and it's great. But yes, please get boosted. We're not, as of this instant, requiring it, but we are strongly encouraging it.
Now, what is the policy regarding parents that are bringing in children? Are there any age restrictions on these vaccines?
So yes, there are age restrictions on the vaccines. As of right now, you have to be, over 5 to be able to receive the vaccine.
Okay.
We have decided that if you are bringing a child anywhere from age 0 to 5 years, that they will be the exception to being able to come to the burn. They are what we consider a lower risk of infection and spreading. They tend to also always be with, other person who probably brought them.
How many babies do you really get in their face, like strangers' babies at a festival?
Yeah, and we don't typically see a whole lot of children at that age at the burn anyway. I think when I came in 2019, I saw maybe 3, possibly 4 children that were there that were around that age group.
And it's an outdoor event, and we understand that makes it even lower risk. We're just being really careful, while at the same time, we really want this event to happen again. We want to be reasonable as to the requirements of this entire community. It's a 500-person event. And again, this is also where things stand at this time of this recording. At this time, 5 and under cannot get vaccinated, and there's already reports that Moderna's requesting emergency authorization for 5 and under. I would say organizationally, we would encourage that you would do that, but we are not requiring that at gate at this point.
As for any other exemptions, I know last year we had the policy for people that had a valid medical reason were also being an exception to being vaccinated to be allowed in. Now, what the CDC says, what the valid medical reasons are, which is exactly what we're sticking to, you only qualify for that if you have had a severe allergic reaction, meaning anaphylactic shock after a first vaccine dose, or you have a known severe allergy to a component of the vaccine. So if you fall into one of these exemptions with the medical, you must email Gate at gate@mosaicexperiment.com by September 15th in order to provide verification from, a primary care physician for that exemption to be accepted.
Yes, we need to have that conversation with you before the event. We need to have that in. So by that date, absolutely contact Gate. And if you're not sure, ask us. But we are sticking to the, if your medical exemption would not qualify you with, the TSA or, typical authorities, it's not going to fly with us. We are trying to keep it simple and go with, anaphylactic reactions. So yes, you might have flu symptoms after the vaccine. I promise you the flu symptoms aren't as bad as having COVID. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a serious allergic reaction.
We're quite serious about this, people. If you don't have the information that we're requesting at the gate, you will be turned away. The whole point of doing this was, and the whole point of why we canceled in previous years during the pandemic, was to protect the community. And now we're requiring vaccination cards, not the fully boosted version at this point. We're just saying fully vaccinated as the CDC defines it. That's bare minimum, just to encourage the safety of this community. We're looking out for people because we'd hate to lose anyone over being too liberal on this policy.
Yeah, this just links back to the principle of civic responsibility. And if you attend Burning Man events, if you go to the regionals, if you've gone to Black Rock City and everything, you realize that civic responsibility is an important tenet to our community. So yeah, do your part.
It's one of those city services type things. Go ahead, Zoe.
Oh, I was going to say, if I remember the conversations we had last year where people were talking about, well, this violates inclusion. Beautiful humans, the most robust set of guiding values is going to at times come into conflict. There will be times when, no matter how robust, how solid your code is, there's going to be times when those conversations happen, and especially in these wild situations like COVID, these are valid conversations to have, but, civic responsibility, we've decided that the interests of the community in this situation outweigh that. You know, a lot of like, if we want to get into like philosophy and ethics, you know, a lot of the, we're talking about like the Western liberal tradition, the ethics of justice. It's like, but there's also the ethics of care, you know, and the ethics of, we are part of an interconnected community of people, and we need to look out for others. And
I wholly agree with you, because this has never happened before since Burning Man originally launched. The community has only grown, and regional events started growing, and those regional events themselves started growing. And then all of a sudden we run into this. And it's really curious to see how all these different niche groups of people around the world are being affected by this and how they're responding to it. And even within the Burning Man community itself, there are so many different reactions, and it's polarizing. It's no different than it is in any other community, as it turns out. And each event handles this in a slightly different way, some of them in radically different ways. But this is the way this community is approaching it. Mosaic is prioritizing civic responsibility, and Mosaic is really concerned about its community. And this is not to say that every other community agrees with that, and some other communities think that this is a lower risk than what we're seeing. We're just going by, again, CDC guidelines. We're looking at what government suggests. We're also looking at what science says. We have a lot of scientists within our community. We've talked to them. We listen to them. We've talked to medical experts. If you've followed us during the pandemic, we have actually been talking to real doctors and infectious disease experts and whatnot. We didn't just go by what the media said, and we have arrived at this decision for ourselves and our community. If you don't like it, you don't have to come to our burn. There are so many other burns that have different vaccination policies that you might agree with more. But this is what we think is best for our community. And that is where our motivation is coming from. I hope you understand that. This isn't us trying to oppress any members of the community. We accept what we believe coming from the science community and the medical community, and we are acting on that in the best interests of our community, because we actually really care about you all, and we hope that this is what's best.
And not only that, but we're also looking towards consent, which is a foundation for everything that we do. We can't expect everyone to consent to being around people that are unvaccinated. I know myself personally, I am around vaccinated people, and I've taken myself out of unvaccinated situations because of the medical risk that I have for getting COVID. I've been boosted twice. So we're looking to respect the consent of other, members of our community that would like to have that safety net of people being vaccinated. So that's really important to us as well.
I just think in terms of also the asymptomatic carrier thing, and that, I have a father and a mother who are 80 now, and thankfully still with me. And I'm starting to get in the habit of visiting them more often. And so I understand the risks are getting lower right now. And I'm really happy it is. Like, I'm really happy that things feel like they're getting back to normal, because that's been personally distressing. And I'm starting to get back into hanging out with groups of people again. And I think most of you are. I've been seeing a lot of your posts. I'm friends with a lot of members of our community. I am a bit anxious and paranoid about these reports that things are going to, and there's going to be another wave in the fall. It's not going to be as bad. I get that. How bad would I feel if we decided, no, we're not going to require any vaccinations, just as things start going back up? We have this big event and something gets passed on to me, I don't know it, and then I bring it back to my parents when I go to visit them in another state shortly after the event takes place. And then something happens, one of them gets COVID, even though they're fully vaccinated. But I hate being responsible for other people's suffering, as I imagine all of you feel that way. And this ties into what civic responsibility is. It's not just about us in the event. It's not just about us burners. It's about what we bring back into the community. And that can be a good thing. You can go to a regional burn and learn some great skills. You can make some great connections and transform yourself for the better and bring that energy back into the community and make the world a better place. You also don't want to go to you don't want to mix with a group of people where it's high risk, where you could actually get an infection with something that you bring back into the community and spread. Depends on what your day job is. If you're working in a nursing home, I would hope that you'd be a lot more concerned just about spreading viruses and wearing masks and getting vaccinated and that sort of thing. You know, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this thing, just beyond saying this is who we're considering, not just people within the event and not just our own community, but if this is something that can affect communities outside our own, we take that very seriously too. It's all about being a good human being.
We've also considered, everybody coming into the event, you may stop for some supplies around the Meeks County area or on the way to there. You may stop after the burn, to get a hot meal or something from a restaurant. And we're considering the people in those communities and, helping to protect them as well.
I can hear people saying, the risks are way lower this year. And you're right. Maybe in another year, it'll be even that much lower. And we'll see that a lot of these events, a lot of burns have different policies, and the ones that have real liberal policies turn out to have no issues. And that's more data for us to base future decisions on. And maybe this whole policy thing gets dropped. We don't know right now. We're just being careful. And I know to some, it seems like we're being over careful, but I'd rather be too careful than not careful enough if it means somebody's lives, if it's affecting somebody else's health. So we're having an event this year, and that's a great thing. I can't wait to see everybody's faces in person again. And this is the way in which we're doing it. I think this is not a big ask.
Especially given we're a fall event. And as you pointed out, Everyman, numbers are projected to rise in fall. They go up and they're down in summer. So we are not looking at the same risk profile that an event in July, is looking at.
Yep.
So we're just trying to mitigate that as best we can and keep everybody safe.
And being outdoors lowers the risk, but still, like, we have campers, we have RVs, we have people sharing vehicles going to and from the event. All this stuff we're just taking into consideration. I know a lot of people are going to keep on saying it's extremely low risk, and we may find out that some things are all for naught, and we may find out we actually made a real smart decision the way things turn out later on in the year. We don't know. That's the biggest reason to do it. You don't know. It's all about protecting the community, and that's including having gate at all, making sure that random people don't come in. You don't want that. You don't want random people who have no idea what Burning Man is, never read the principles, just coming into the event, and they're just there to take and take and take. They don't understand the principle of gifting.
I think it's a party.
They don't understand the radical self-reliance. Yeah, the partiers. Like, you want people that really get and respect these principles and want to celebrate them. Partying is great, but you want to do this with people who helped build it, who helped support it, who help leave no trace in the end. That's really important to this community. And this is another way that we're looking at it. If you leave with a virus, we didn't LNT.
Protection is definitely a thing for this event. I don't know. Well, as you've seen, Everyman, I have no issues throwing myself in front of a car to stop them from passing gate without permission. And I will yell at you, and I will belittle you and make you feel like shit for doing something.
What's the story of that?
I believe you, because
I did not see this occur. So what's the story of you throwing yourself in front of a car?
Oh, it's happened.
So it was rather like early in the burn. I want to say it was probably opening day. And sadly, poorly, these are people that have never been to Mosaic before, and so they weren't aware of how this happens. Sorry, not sorry. And they decided to just keep moving with the cars that were already cleared to keep going. And my little short ass shit just kind of like jumped right in front of their car. I was like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Where the fuck do you think you are going right now? You have not even proved who the fuck you are. What the shit? Get the fuck out of the goddamn car. They were like,
yeah. So if you don't want to be if you don't want to be met with that kind of response, please bring your vaccine verification when you come to gate this year.
And I had to throw myself in front of moving cars when I was doing car duty when I was teaching. but I didn't get to drop F-bombs. So that's another advantage Gate has over. Like it's like my day job, real life experiences, but like I get to curse more.
I understand that it sucks that you have to remember to bring your ID with you to Gate, and now we're asking you to bring, you know, a Vax card on top of it. I get it. Cool. You know, when you do that double, triple check thing before you leave to come to an event, you could always take that Vax card and you could like pin it onto your driver's license.
Yeah, and like it was mentioned before, if you don't want to bring your physical Vax card, take that full, clear, legible picture with all of the information present.
All four corners.
All four corners, or, you know, the analog of the information from something like my chart, a screenshot of that, just so it can be verified by Gate when you arrive.
Make sure you download it. Reception's kind of iffy at best at the Gate. So if you are relying on my chart, or if you have a photo in Google Photos, do this. This is like a gift from your present self to your future self, is if you download that so that you can just pull it up and you're not reliant. You're not like at the mercy of the Wi-Fi gods and the like satellite gods when you get there. It's the same advice we give everybody. Download the directions offline so you have them, because, you know, when you're on Macomber Road, like your GPS is going to be like, you don't exist right now. So you'll want that. Please download everything that you need. Don't trust that you'll have connectivity, because you very well might not.
And as we've posted before, all of this is detailed in our vaccine policy, which is available on the website in our blog post.
And if you have questions, I may seem mean, but I'm not. And Zoe's fucking wonderful. So you could always just, you know, email Gates.
I'm a fucking beam of sunshine. So you should email Gate and we will discuss your questions.
So I know this episode has been a lot about our policies and stuff for vaccines, and we didn't have the art submissions that we had back in our second episode, but we would love to have art submissions, stories about your activism, just stories from the burn in general, and what you would like to share with the community. So if you can just email us at promotions@mosaicexperiment.com, we can share those stories and that art, and even get you involved in an interview here on Out of the Mud. So I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Squeezie. Thank you, Zoe, for joining myself and Everyman. Yeah, we'll see you next month.
Cheers, Corvus. Cheers, Zoe. Cheers, Squeezie.
Cheers.
Cheers, folks.
Bye.